Have you ever felt a strange presence you can't explain? Have you noticed your pet staring into the darkness at something you can't see?
Welcome to Spirit Hounds, the podcast that combines our two passions, the paranormal and all things canine.
I'm Nicky Gardiner, an author with a keen interest in the paranormal.
I'm Davina, a professional dog trainer and instructor.
And we are joined by our curious miniature dachshund, Rosie.
Join us as we explore the fascinating world of ghostly encounters, spooky legends from around the globe, as well as real-life dog training tips and techniques.
Okay, so I thought we'd start with just talking a bit about ghosts and the paranormal. Why do you have an interest in the paranormal?
I think it's interesting because it's a comfort to think that there is something afterwards, that when we do die, that's not the end. There's something else on the other side, so to speak. So watching a lot of these paranormal programs, they talk a lot about intelligent ghosts or residual activity, and the intelligent ghosts seem to be the ones that can interact back with the different equipment they have, so that kind of gives you more of a hope that there are maybe some people knocking about as ghosts and they can try and interact back with you when you're asking them questions using various equipment.
Knocking about quite literally in some cases.
Yeah, with chains and
knocking
things.
On the doors and things. It does seem with like a lot of the residual type haunts, they seem to always be a reenactment of a tragic moment or some such event.
Yeah, is that a residual or is that a...
Well, it seems to be a replay, doesn't it? So it's like a residual haunt. They just seem to carry out their moment of death or violence.
Is that more if it's a real horrific end? It's imprinted
or tragic, I suppose, or emotional, suicides and stuff like that, I suppose.
So why are you interested in the paranormal?
I think everyone is in a little bit. I think it is that age-old questions, what happens next after you die? People have been wondering that for years and, well, forever really, since man has been able to wonder such thoughts. And it's the same with UFOs. Is there something else out there? People have always asked that question. I think that's the real interest. But I do love my history, and I love the way history ties into a lot of the hauntings and things, because there's usually a tale behind it. I do wonder with ghosts, though, you seem to have things like you have a lot of ladies in white ghosts in various locations. And I do wonder, why do they always appear that way? Why is it always a lady in white?
You don't get men in white, do you?
No, not really, no. But it does seem to be quite a common thing.
Yes, they're monks.
Seen.
Sometimes they're in white.
Yeah, you get a lot of monks. Which again, you kind of think, if you were religious and you dedicated your whole life to religion, you'd be a bit jaded. You didn't get to go to heaven if you're still wandering around down here, surely.
See, that's the thing. If you're stuck down here, does that mean you're in purgatory and you can't get up to heaven or wherever the afterlife is that you believe should be?
It's your beliefs. I mean, would you go where you believe, or is it something else? It's another question in itself. But I do wonder, with the things always appearing white, like you see, and with spirits and things that people are seeing, does it take more energy to manifest colour? Why is it monotone? Why is it you don't often see a lot of colour in ghosts?
Is that to do with the different spectrum that you can see things in? Because some of the equipment shows things in a different colour spectrum, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So to the naked eye maybe, or mainly to the naked eye because there's not many real ghosts caught on camera, they come across as that colour because maybe our vision can only pick it up in that colour. Maybe if we saw in a different spectrum, they would be in Technicolor or something.
Like dogs.
Yes.
Because we do know that YouTube videos are out there with dogs staring and reacting to things unseen, or people who have passed away and the dog still goes to the same spot and acts like it's interacting with that person.
Yes. So is that to do with the fact that they're actually looking at something, or is it because they have such amazing hearing and amazing smell that they're actually picking up on something maybe outside or in the next street, and they're trying to zero in on it and focusing on a certain area, and we're attributing that they might be looking at something ghostly when in fact it's something real but outside.
I think, like anything, a lot of cases of stuff like that are going to be kind of us interpreting things wrongly. It's like with UFOs, for example. Most things can probably be explained. Most sightings of things, as down to weather balloon or a drone or military aircraft or maybe some kind of natural phenomenon. But there's probably that small percentage that could be something else.
That's why I like the term UFO, because it's an unidentified flying object. They're not saying it's aliens. We just don't know exactly what it is.
But with the ghost thing now, a lot of people, something goes bang in the house. If they're inclined to believe in ghosts, they are more likely to go, well, that's a ghost straight away, because that's their belief system at work.
Like that ghost show where every noise is a demon.
We're not going to name the ghost show.
Every speck of dust that floats across the camera screen is an orb.
Yeah.
So it's just, yeah.
And I get it, because they're bigging it up, making it a bigger experience and trying to build up hype because it's making money, I suppose. But it's a shame because it discredits if someone has got some real evidence out there. People look at it more sceptical. And it's the same with a lot of the videos you now see on YouTube. You can tell it's been altered or set up, or there's some kind of like special effects being done. And all of that has improved so much now that anyone can do it.
It's a shame that people have to do that, because there are cameras everywhere and you would think something would have been unexpectedly caught on camera, something real.
There are quite a few, and obviously during various future podcasts we'll hopefully cover some of them and mention them. There are a lot of unexplained things caught on camera.
But how do we know which ones are real and which ones are fake?
This is where it becomes problematic. I think it's always better if you've got more than one person viewing an incident, especially if they don't know each other, like a shared experience between two strangers. I think that adds more validity to it, especially if it can then be researched and backed up by historical evidence that something did happen in whatever the location is. There's going to be loads of hoaxes out there.
But I like shows like Ghost Hunters or Taps, because they do try and debunk a lot of stuff. They'll try and find the root cause of something. Is it a pipe banging? Is it the house cooling down or of an evening time? And they'll try and figure that out before they classify it as possibly paranormal.
They definitely used to seem to debunk things a lot more in the earlier series, I think. I'm not so sure now.
Well, it seems more scientific, doesn't it? And they brought out a lot more technical gadgets.
There is so much gadgets now. Every ghost show you watch has a new gizmo that you've not heard of before.
Yeah, there's some things that we've got. We've started collecting things that we've seen on TV, so we've not really used a lot of it yet, but we have a camcorder that can record with night vision. We've got the Flux 2 device, which has the red and the green lights that come on.
Yeah.
Goes off
we did
by
have
motion
a play
sensor.
with that, didn't we, at one point?
We did try it indoors, dabbled with it. There's different apps you can get, but they're apps, so I don't know how much stock I put in those.
I don't really rate the apps. I think I've had 3 different ghost apps, like the Ovulus things. And
what's the Ovulus?
it supposedly allows an entity to pick a different words, basically, from it to say.
It's like a dictionary.
Kind of, yeah. But every time I've used it, it comes up with the same word a hell of a lot.
Legion.
Yeah,
and
Legion,
like
all the time Legion we'd get. It just doesn't really... I think the issue I find with it is, even when you watch a lot of the ghost shows, the Ovulus says something, and it's sort of one word, maybe 2 words in a row, if you're lucky, and then they sort of create a narrative around what's been said. They try and make it justify it, really, and then put a story around it and wrap it in a nice little bow. Yeah, and a lot of these things, they also have a lot of... It's always like demon, Satan, or evil. You know, it's all these very dramatic terms it always comes out with.
And how do we know how these apps are created? How do we know? Because your phone has an inbuilt microphone. Yeah. How do we know it's not taking in what you're saying, listening to it, and feeding back certain words? And then we go, oh, it listened to us, it answered the question.
I did wonder as well, because there's quite a few of the devices, and I do wonder if they do also have some kind of speaker or way of picking something up, a microphone on them. And
yeah, I wouldn't know how they work.
No, unless
internally.
you take them apart.
Yeah, exactly. If you were there when it was being built, I mean, we all know certain smart devices that you can have a conversation
don't say its name,
completely randomly, and the next thing you know, when you go online, it's bringing up things trying to sell you. At that time, I needed a new charger cable for the phone, and we literally just had a conversation about it. Next time I went on Facebook, I think it was coming up.
Now Meta, of course.
Sorry, Meta. You need a lightning cable. You can buy them from here. Spooky. Yeah.
It is a little bit.
Creepy, really.
They're listening.
Yeah. Who are they? Who are they?
The other thing I do find kind of strange with all these devices is you're talking to some of these supposed spirits, people who passed on, and they're from decades past. And then you're going in with a high-tech gadget, supposedly, something that's basically a small computer compared to, what we had way back when. And they automatically are meant to know how to use it. You know, it's not something they'd have encountered.
No, I'm sure a Roman legionary wouldn't know how to
exactly.
use an ovulus.
But whereas I can get something like with the REM pods, which have been around forever. If you were to say, touch it, touch that light and make it bleep to say yes, and then you could ask questions, I could get that anything could potentially understand that. But yeah, if you're going in with this special box like an ovulus or whatever, you're expecting this creature or entity or being to just be able to use it.
When the show Ghosts that we were watching, the BBC show Ghosts, where they have...
Oh, the sitcom.
The sitcom, where they're all in the property. It's quite clever the way they've done that, where you have the caveman character, and he does know how modern day technology works because he's lived there all the time, so he's grown with it.
And again, you're
grown but lived through it.
That would suggest that there's, I know it's a comedy, but if you've got things that can do that, then they are in a way a true living entity still in a way. I mean, they're not alive in the traditional sense, but they are able to learn and grow. Yeah, which is kind of odd.
It is strange. They no longer have a full body, yet they have a working brain and a speech,
but then again,
voice box, and they can hear things with not real ears.
It is odd. I mean, you're saying about that. How can they supposedly tap? Because you have a lot of these ghost shows, and it's like, oh, bang once for yes, two for no, or whatever. And they can do that. But then you think, if you could do that, like actually apply pressure or force to something, wouldn't you do a lot more? Wouldn't you be going up to someone's keyboard and typing them a message? Wouldn't you be doing stuff like that?
Yeah, you wouldn't even need as much force nowadays because you've got touch screens. So you don't need to press buttons in anymore.
Although, for some people, they don't work a lot of the time anyway.
But it should be a bit easier. Voice-activated things. The ghosts would be walking around going, Alexa, order me this from Amazon.
When you see what you say, there are spirits out there, for example, that smoke cigarettes, supposedly. People say, oh, you know, I saw that ghost smoking, leaning up against the bar or whatever. Surely we're thinking those must be a residual haunt, because are there ghost cigarettes as well? You know, it's a bit odd.
Yeah, it must be residual. It's just replaying.
Yeah, because you have ones who are supposedly drinking and things.
But then why would it be replaying that unless they died doing that?
A happy moment. I mean, some people also talk about time slips, but that's a whole new thing. But they shouldn't really appear as apparitions from what I hear. They appear as another solid entity, just in the wrong place. Spirit Hounds. Have you ever had a ghostly experience? Anything you can't explain?
When we lived in the flat before where we are now.
How many years ago was that again?
8 years ago, I think.
Yeah. And how long were we in there?
Oh, we were there for at least 6-7 years there, I believe. Yes, so we lived in the flat in Pitsea, and there were some odd things that happened to us while we were living there. I did try looking up the history of the property, but I couldn't really find anything. I think they're quite new built flats.
It was a first floor flat, wasn't it, really, with a main living area, a little sort of galley kitchen, a hallway and a bedroom and a toilet, really. It wasn't any bigger than that. What would you say the first thing you noticed was?
I used to hear whisperings in my ear. I do remember one time I think I was doing housework or something, and I heard something in my left ear just say my name, Davina. And I thought it was you messing about, and turned around and there was nobody there. That did happen a couple of times after that, but that was probably the loudest that I'd ever heard that. And then because we're also Star Wars nerds, we also had various
little confession of guilt there, isn't there?
We had Star Wars toys set up in the hallway, and there was a little R2-D2 droid figure that was motion activated. So whenever you walk past it, it would make his little whistle noise. And
you can edit that in if you want. Although it's probably copyrighted, so we won't.
So yeah, you walk past it, it would make a noise. But then whenever I'd walk past it and go into the lounge, about a minute or so later, it would go off again. And it wasn't something built into it. It wasn't something that would go off and then go off again a bit later. It would do this one noise, that was it. So something else was activating it again. So that was weird. That felt like it was following me around.
And I must say, in that flat, whenever you're sitting by yourself in the flat, you would have moments where you felt like someone come in the room with you. Especially if you had your back to a door or something. Sometimes it'd feel like someone walked up behind you. That was the feeling I used to get the most.
Temperature changes a lot as well. And yeah, it was a bit ominous. And then there was that time I was at work and you were at home and someone had turned up to do the census. You can tell the story.
Well, there's an old gentleman, probably 70s, late 70s maybe even. He turned up He said he wanted to ask some questions with his sensors. Asked if my partner was in. She was at work. So we went into the living room. We're sitting down. He's sitting on the sofa and I'm sitting on a little armchair, sort of facing him with my back to the door. And we're going through the various questions. Quite boring stuff. And we got 15 minutes into doing it. He stopped, looked at the door, looked at me, looked at the door again, and he just went to me, I thought you said your other half was out. And I went, well, yeah, she is. She's at work. And he went, well, who is the lady who just walked in? And I went, there isn't anyone here. And he just said, they looked straight at the back of you, glared at you, and then went into the room next to it, like next to the hallway. I said, look, there's no one here. And we did get up and we went into the very small galley kitchen. And when he realised it's a dead end, there's no one in there, he went ashen and he left very quickly. And I do remember some kind of conversation on the way out. I said, well, what did this person look like? He said, it was a young lady in a nightgown.
So I'm choosing to believe that it was a ghost. Well, and he didn't have someone else there. Why not? I was out at work.
It's kind of odd, though, isn't it, that we were there for so many years. And although we heard things, we felt uncomfortable. We never saw this lady. But a complete stranger walks into the place for like 20 minutes tops. And he sees as if there's a real person there.
Maybe he was one of those empaths. What do they call them?
I think you'd know by now. If he's like in his 70s, I would have thought he'd have encountered one before by now.
Maybe he has. How many censuses has he taken and they're not really there?
You don't know. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it is interesting. And when we moved into the current place we are now in the house, which is in Stanford, we did have an interesting few nights here, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, some of it could have been just debunking things. Some of it could have been me not setting up the alarm properly because it would go off randomly in the middle of the night. So it could have been me, not just a ghost setting things off. Then in the garage, there was an old sideboard unit that had been left out in the garage. And we brought it in, cleaned it up, and we were going to get rid of it, but we had it in the house. And
what
then
was
some
the coin
strange
in it? It had
things.
some old coins in it, didn't it? It was very
It was
old.
King George
Yeah.
coin, something like that. There were some strange happenings while that was in the house. We'd have doors opening and closing. Doors that shouldn't really be able to open and close on their own because they were on a spring thing, so they shouldn't be able to just open and close
easily. Even the
easily.
cupboard doors on this thing were very stiff and we'd come down and it'd all be open.
Yeah, that
Or
was
all
strange.
be shut, wouldn't they? It's very weird.
But the weird thing was, as well, where it was in the garage, which is at the end of our garden, the house that's at the other side of that garage, the guy who was living there at the time,
Who worked for the police force, I might add.
he told us that he swore there was a ghost of a little girl in his house. Something that would peer at him up and down the stairs and just, all over.
Turn the lights off as well, occasionally, wouldn't it, as well, in the living room?
Yes.
You'd see the hand apparently switch to switch.
So maybe this thing
Wandered over.
would go over the boundaries.
See who the new neighbours were.
And then when we brought it into our house, it was moving around. Although, again, we didn't see anything. It was just things we heard.
We did hear it, and the alarm did go off a lot, saying intruder alert, didn't it, in various rooms.
Yeah, that might have been me.
Or it could have been you. It could have been you. Who knows?
More than likely.
But yeah, we did get our device, what's it called again?
The Flux 2.
Which appears like a miniature pyramid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's triangle
I'd say.
shape.
Has a flashy light on it, and then it has one side where if you put your hand, it'll say yes and it'll flash green, and the other side is no and it'll flash red. So we did get that, not long ago, was it last year?
Last year, yeah.
Yeah, and we tried it out, didn't we, in our living room. And we asked so many questions. We'd lost people quite recently as well. Asked them, nothing. Nothing happened, did it?
Nope.
And then we realised we've got a few sort of keepsakes, collectibles, things we've got recently that are historic. We've got some stuff that's from the Titanic.
Some coal from the
From the
Titanic.
actual Titanic. We asked about that, nothing. And we've got some Roman bits. So a Roman ring, which is a soldier's ring that was found. And, I can't remember what the bit's called, but it hangs on the loinclothy leathery bits on there.
The belt of the
Yeah, it's a little like metal weight bottom.
Yeah.
So we thought we'll ask just for laughs, really. We said, are you Roman? And it was the first time in all the time we'd sat there with this device. It went off, didn't it?
It went green.
Yeah,
Yes.
it went, yes. So then we sort of asked, are you a Roman soldier or something similar? Yes. And then we asked, are any of the artefacts here yours? Yes. And I thought it'd be the ring. I thought the ring's the personal item. I think it's got an eagle on it, hasn't it?
Yes, it has, yeah.
I thought that's the more personal item. We asked, it didn't go off at all, did it? And then we asked, is it the weight bit from the thing? And yes went off. And then after that, nothing again.
So again, like in the show Ghost, where the caveman's learnt modern day parlance and how to use gadgets, this Roman soldier had obviously learnt English from Latin.
But I think with most of these ghosts that people supposedly communicate with, even the way people spoke back in Tudor times is so different to modern English.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So they wouldn't, if they didn't learn how the language had adapted with us over time, they wouldn't be able to communicate, surely.
So if this Roman soldier has hung around, whether it was attached to its jewellery, and it's just hung around with it's been around a couple of thousand years, then it obviously, I guess, would have learnt modern day parlance.
I suppose it'd make being a ghost more interesting, wouldn't it, if you could actually learn things?
It is interesting. I like the flux too, because it literally is just a proximity sensor. You can set at different distances. So if you're in a small area, you can set it so it's only a foot away. If you're in a large area, you can set it a couple of feet away. You can set it at a further distance.
Dial down the sensitivity, sort of.
Exactly.
Something have to go right up to it.
And it's just something that sits there with a glowing blue light, I think it has, while it's in rest mode. And you can just say, if anything's here, just walk up to it. And you ask yes/no questions, or make it light up green if you're female and red if you're a male. So as long as you've got 2 answers that you want it to choose from, quite a good device for doing that.
At least there's no interpretation with that. That's the thing.
Sorry?
With that sort of device, there's no interpretation. It's, like with the Ovilus, and you get a random word that people can interpret it any way they want.
So if something's there and it's manipulating it, it seems more realistic.
I can understand there's a taboo with Ouija boards, for example, but it doesn't feel that much different from it, because a Ouija board has yes and no.
It's not that much different.
I know, but yeah, I'd be honest. I would be really nervous about doing it, even though I am quite a sceptical person who wants to believe there's something else.
What's the difference?
There isn't. I know there isn't.
People think, I can't use a Ouija board, I'm conjuring up something. But then you have these different devices, you put them down and you go, if anything's here, walk towards the thing. What's the difference? You're still asking for something to communicate with you.
And equally, they used to sell them, didn't they, in Toys R Us, I think, in America.
They probably still do.
Do they? Does Toys R Us still exist? I suppose it does in America.
Or some store.
Yeah, there are other good toy shops available that sell Ouija boards.
Yeah, not many on the high street in England anymore. But
I still find I would be nervous about using a Ouija board.
But what's the difference?
I don't know. I suppose it's because every horror movie's told me, don't mess with that.
But I have never seen any of these paranormal investigation programs where anything's happened that's happened in a horror film. You haven't had, they're not investigating in a church and some evil nun like Valak has come running out and grabbed them and killed them. Nothing like that has ever happened.
A lot of the origin stories of that have been debunked as well, haven't they?
I don't know what the difference is really. Any kind of device or tech that you're using to talk to something, you're inviting it to talk with you. And how do they know as well at the end of these Ouija board sessions when they close it down and they say a special rhyme or a special spell or incantation or something to make it safe and they've closed it off? How do they know that works?
That's what I don't understand when they stand there. We watched one quite recently, I won't name the show, but the person in question thought there was something evil in the room they were in with them. And they actually said, I give you no permission, you do not have permission to touch me or interact with me. And it's like, if you genuinely believe this is a demon, as they were calling it in this program, and Satan, what is he really going to go, I don't have permission, sorry about that, I'll find somebody who does give me permission.
I won't be evil to you, you said no.
Yeah, it just...
We live in the age of consent.
Apparently, even the demons are PC and... not going to step past those boundaries. You don't want to be in court.
No, you might get cancelled.
Oh, God, I don't know.
I know. We kind of apply these special meanings to things, and you'd say this special word, and that means
this. Is the thing, how do we know? I want to believe, and then I watch things where they do stuff like that, and it makes me go, yeah. That's
the thing. We want to believe, but at least we can question it and say, well, how come that means that? I'd love to think there's something else afterwards, but I do sit there and think, can they tap on something where they don't actually have any hands or...
Well, how can they make a noise? Because you supposedly hear voices and things. How do they do that without a voice box? Because all speeches is vibrations.
Yeah, what are they vibrating?
Exactly. Well...
So
you said it, not me.
How are they making that noise? How are they knocking on something?
Exactly.
Is it? I mean, they say
they
use energy.
Creak, when they walk.
Exactly. Yeah. So it must mean they have some kind of mass.
Yeah.
And if they can walk on the floor, why do they walk through walls? But they can stand on the floor.
A lot of people thought, in a lot of cases, when they're going through walls, it's because a door used to be there or it ain't the original layout of a building. That's what a lot of these cases are. When people have done research into the buildings they've been in and things, or the buildings have moved. So they're just following their old route, basically.
Okay.
But then is the noise residual? Is
it right that if you did see a Roman, by the way of how the Earth is now with modern day things on it, you'd actually be seeing it walking knees upwards?
I'll have to try and look it up, but there was someone who was in a basement somewhere in England, and he saw a load of soldiers supposedly walk through it while he was there, but they were, even though he was in the basement, they were only sort of seen, I think, from the knees up.
Right, and that'd be
because the floor was, or the ground level was lower then.
And how does that work?
What?
The ground level being different?
It's just sedimentation building up over time.
Science as well on this show.
I wouldn't call that science. But that's just things being buried by time, really. I find that very interesting. I like my Roman stuff anyway. So.
Do you think that gives it credence? Because that's how it would look geophysically.
Well, yeah. I suppose. I mean, one thing I'm very interested in is you get ghost people, supposedly. You get ghost horses because you have people on horses and carts and carriages and stuff supposedly being sighted. You have dogs, ghost dogs. There's even been supposedly ghost cats. But you don't. Wouldn't you be looking up and seeing a sky full of ghost birds? And where are all the ghost dinosaurs?
Yeah. No one ever says they see a T-Rex.
Well, this is the thing. Dinosaurs roamed the earth. Or are they that far underneath the level we're standing on now?
Even the tall ones.
Well, yeah, exactly. You'd see their heads at least, wouldn't you? I don't know.
I can understand the really short dinosaurs, but the tall ones.
You'd expect to see some of them because humanity's been on the earth like the blink of an eye by comparison to how long the dinosaurs were around. So how many of them have lived and died and lived and died and lived and died here? You should be seeing dinosaur ghosts everywhere. Or are we saying that it's only things that have self-awareness, kind of have a soul or something like that carry on? You don't see ghost insects.
Or do you?
Well, I don't know.
I wouldn't know.
It's that fly you can't quite swat. It's because he's a ghost.
I think if you're going on that premise, then there probably are a lot of ghost dog stories. I do think dogs have souls.
Definitely.
They're all so different. In my experience of working with dogs over the years, each dog has got his own personality. They do have their own souls. They really do. They're not just animals. They are amazing creatures. So it might be why there are more stories about ghost dogs than any other
equally,
animal.
Because it's a pet, it may seek humans out to interact. So it might be that they actually seek human interaction. That's why they appear to us. And that's why cats appear as well. There's loads
friendly cats.
Well, there's loads. There are friendly cats out there, I believe. But people do claim that they felt like the cat climb on their bed and all the rest of it, and felt the weight of them after they died and things like that. So it does make you wonder if it's because they seek you out. That's why you see. I suppose a dinosaur wouldn't seek human out because it never knew what a human was.
Unless they thought it could eat you.
Well. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But then a lot of people, there's other theories out there that over time the ghosts degrade, as it were. So over time you see them less and less and less as time goes by. So I suppose then you'd be saying all the stuff like dinosaurs, that they're gone. They're nothing left of them. Your Victorian ghosts and stuff. But then you don't see ghosts in modern dress, do you? You never hear about a ghost in a shell suit or something like from back in the day, do you? Or anything like that.
People think they see ghosts of Elvis in Graceland.
Yeah, you're talking
quite
famous
modern
ghosts. But I'm thinking, where are all the punk rocker ghosts and things like that? You expect to see them as well, didn't you?
I suppose maybe some people see them, some don't.
And why, unless they're residual haunts, why are famous people seen in so many places? Like Anne Boleyn is seen numerous locations. So is that just residual stuff going on, like reenacting her life throughout the year, in different places?
Well, that's the thing. If she's being seen at a place like Hever Castle that she just stayed at, she didn't die at Hever Castle. So why would her ghost be at Hever Castle? So like you said before, is it just they go back to different places that they once visited and that's being replayed?
That's the only reason I can think why a ghost would be in several locations. Like the same ghost. Like Elvis has probably been spotted in numerous places, I'd imagine. The other part of our podcast is about dogs. So what would you like to talk about with dogs? We've got our own dog, by the way. We should
do.
Say we've got a little miniature dachshund called Rosie.
Yeah, we've had her since just before New Year 2024. We've only had her about 11 months now. So yeah, she'll probably make her presence known.
She's been very
asleep
good
at the
right now. I was
moment,
going to say
but
she's
been
very quiet.
But she'll probably make her presence known at some point. Throughout these sessions, we will be talking about different ghosts, paranormal things, ghost dogs, and then seamlessly going into
that gear
real
change.
dogs. Talking about real dogs.
Yeah.
And
the reason
training.
behind it being, we were wanting to do a podcast to try a hand at it. We kind of had various topics in mind and we dropped quite a few of them. We got down to these two, and they're both two things we're both very interested in. So we thought, why not combine the two? And hopefully some listeners out there will appreciate that and be interested in both topics. If you're not, if you're interested in just one, then, by all means, skip the bits you're not interested in. We won't be offended. So just pick out what you want.
I'll try and incorporate some training techniques or some information about training areas for dogs. This week, for the first episode, because we're kind of the end of November, coming up to December, during New Year, around the world this will happen, there will be a lot of fireworks going off. And a lot of dogs are really scared of loud noises and bangings and things like that. So we thought today to maybe try and help as we're coming up to the firework season, might be worth talking about some tips and techniques to try and help any anxious pets. In the UK, we have bonfire night on the 5th of November, and fireworks do get set off. Unfortunately, it's not just on the 5th of November. They tend to start a few days before and carry on a few days afterwards, and then on and off right the way through to New Year. So there are a lot of dogs who are in quite a heightened state of anxiety throughout this period. Now, there are some tips and techniques to help calm down your dog if they are scared, or any pet really, but mainly talking about dogs. So some regular tips are you can keep your pet calm by doing some of the following. You can play classical music. You can also play white noise or brown noise through YouTube on your TV, or you can ask your smart speaker to play white noise or brown noise. And the white noise is kind of just a sound.
What does the brown noise sound like?
It's the same kind of sound, it just sounds a slightly different pitch. So there's various types, but white noise and brown noise are the two main ones that cut out extraneous sounds. You don't have to play music or the white noise or the brown noise really loud. About 60 to 80 decibels is fine. The same volume as conversations between people in the household, or volume that you would play background music. Their hearing is very good, so it hasn't got to be very loud. It's just something that's going to cut out any outside noises. Another thing you can do, close the curtains, blinds, and have some dim lighting. You can have a dark area sectioned off where your dog can go to. It could be a crate or a pen. Usually the quietest part of the house they will find, and that's normally quite central in the house and away from windows and things. So if you've got a little area that you can make into a den for your dog, make it cozy with blankets, cushions. You can put some of their favourite toys and treats in there and leave them be. If they take themselves off to that area, just leave them be. They're quite happy to be on their own. Resist the urge to pat, stroke your dog if they are displaying nervous body language. If the dog is panting or looking really scared, it's very understandable that we think we're making them feel better or reassuring them.
We think we're showing compassion, don't we?
We do. We think by hugging them and going, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, and stroking them, that's reassuring them. It's not. Unfortunately, that inadvertently reinforces that behaviour, because you're basically going, yeah, that's good, yeah, keep doing that thing while we're stroking and cuddling them. And then the dog thinks, oh, okay, I'll keep doing this then. And then it turns from actual anxiety into a learnt behaviour, and it just becomes a habit. So when you talk to them, you can talk to them, but just keep the tone normal, light, conversational, as if there's nothing wrong, nothing's out of the ordinary, everything's fine. Just the sound of your voice is reassuring to your dog. And if you're talking to them in a normal conversational tone, it shows them that you're not worried, so they don't need to be worried either. You can buy things to help with your dog. There are calming sprays. You can get plugins such as the Adaptil one, but there are others available. And you can get drops There's one made by a company called Bark, of course. But Bark are the company that make the rescue remedy drops for humans. So they also make drops for dogs as well.
I'm sure there are other companies that do similar products. So.
Probably that, yeah. Other companies are available. This is one that just springs to mind. But the one by Bark is called the Pet Rescue Dropper. You just put a couple of drops on a treat or mixed in with their food, and it really does help calm them down. You can get doggy treats and doggy milk with chamomile and honey in them. Places like Pets at Home or B&M will sell things like that, and obviously other places as well. You can get calming vests like the Thunder shirt, which goes around the dog quite snugly, and I think it just feels like a hug around them, really. It just makes them feel a bit calmer and reassured. That's called the Thunder shirt. In extreme cases...
I think it's more it makes them feel protected. Because you're not meant to give them the stroking and the comforting and that kind of thing. So when you say it simulates a hug, maybe it's more that it feels protective, like wearing an armoured vest.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe like a weighted blanket. Or yeah. In extreme cases, if your dog is really, really, really scared, it might be worth talking to your vet because they can prescribe medication. During bonfire night around here, Rosie was a little bit scared. We didn't know what she was like around fireworks because we hadn't had many since we've had her, so we didn't know how she'd react to them. But she wasn't too bad, but she did sort of hide in a corner. And she was also recovering from spinal surgery at the time, so we had to keep her calm and still.
We'll have to spend an episode talking about IVDD, won't we?
We'll talk
That's
about
a big subject, though.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in another episode. But the vet prescribed the medication for her. She had trazodone, and it did really help keep her calm. So in extreme cases, that can help. Another good thing to do is before the fireworks start, make sure your dog's had plenty of exercise during the day. If the dog's got a lot of pent-up energy, that can turn into nervous energy and can fuel any feelings of anxiety. So if there's plenty of exercise, they're going to be a bit tired, too tired, hopefully, to get themselves too worked up. But some proper training you can do with your dog is to start sound therapy training. You can do this at any time, ideally at least several weeks before the fireworks season starts, just so you've got enough time to implement the training and hopefully get your dog to a point where they're not too frightened anymore when the real fireworks start.
I think it can also help when you've got the fireworks sound effects and things going on, say, YouTube or whatever, and you're trying to gradually increase it and get your dog used to those sort of noises. It can help on the night to actually put that on, can't it, on YouTube, so that it's going on TV and they'll actually be like, oh, that's just a telly, rather than worrying about what's going on outside. Exactly.
So sound therapy is also known, we call it desensitization and counter conditioning. It's a great way to help dogs create more positive associations when they hear sounds that would usually make them anxious. In this case, we're talking about fireworks, but the same principle also applies to other sounds that can trigger a dog, like the doorbell going off, thunderstorms, babies crying, dogs barking. Whatever the noise is that scares your dog in particular, it could be a variety of noises. You can apply this same training technique to any of those things. So in this instance, we're talking about fireworks. Now you can go to YouTube there and type in fireworks sounds. There are plenty of videos on there of different fireworks sounds, and you can use any of those tracks. But you can go to the Dogs Trust website, and they have audio files on their site as well. The good thing with the Dogs Trust website is they have generic fireworks sounds, and they also have separate audio tracks where they've extrapolated just the sounds of, say, the pops and the bangs, or the whistles and the whooshes. So if the dog is mainly scared of those particular sounds, like the bang sounds, you can just play the track that's pops and bangs to help desensitize them to that noise, rather than just the generic sound. If you just Google Dogs Trust Sound Therapy, it brings up a link to the Sound Therapy for Pets page of their website. On that page are the links to all their sound-based resources. The first one is called Sound Scary, which has the fireworks tracks, but we can add the links to the description box for this episode. We'll put it all in there for you. So what you would do, whatever track you pick, whether it's on YouTube, Dogs Trust, anywhere, you want to get something for your dog to be distracted by. So either you can use a licky mat, you can use a snuffle mat, you could even use your dog's dinner maybe in a slow feeder, so the dog's distracted by eating or doing something else. A licky mat is a particularly good resource to use because licking is very self-soothing for dogs, so it also helps bring down any anxiety levels while they're being distracted and they're focusing on getting something to eat. You'd set them up, say, with a licky mat, and you start playing the track, but you play it on a really low volume, literally just the first sound increment of the volume to play.
And if the dog starts reacting as you increase it, you drop it down a bit?
You would, yeah. So while the dog's interested in what he's doing and is ignoring the sounds, the only thing you want to be saying to your dog is good boy or good girl every few seconds. So the only feedback you want that dog to have is the sound of the noise that he was initially scared of, but at a really low volume. And he wants to be hearing you saying good boy or good girl. Then he's focusing on getting something really nice. He's focusing on getting the food. So he's literally just getting good feedback. We want him to be hearing the sounds, getting the pleasurable feedback all at the same time. So after a minute or so of being at that one volume, if the dog's quite happy and calm, you turn up the volume one increment at a time. No more than that. It has to be really subtle. And the dog shouldn't really notice too much the change in volume. If he does notice and he looks up, before he reacts, hit pause immediately until he calms down. Don't say anything, don't even look at him, just hit pause. And so there should be silence. So the dog should look up, hopefully just look around and go, no, nothing there, and then go back to what he's doing. Soon as he does that and he's calm and he goes back to doing the licky mat or the snuffle mat, press play again. But maybe go down a notch on the volume, because maybe that higher sound volume is a bit too overwhelming. So then you want to go just take it down a notch.
It's important not to rush it, I suppose.
You've got to take it really slow. We're gradually desensitizing the dog to this sound, but you have to do it a little bit at a time. Keep going up a notch of the volume, one bit at a time. Make sure your dog's happy for a few minutes at each volume. Ideally, you want to get the volume as loud as possible without the dog even bothering to look up and around and taking notice of what's going on. So we want to get to the point where the noise that you're playing becomes background noise. So then when the real fireworks happen outside, it's not so much of a shock. Again, can't reiterate this enough. If the dog at any time stops, looks up, looks around, before he gets to the point where he becomes worked up and scared, hit pause immediately. Don't say anything. We don't want the dog to get any feedback other than the positive feedback. So eventually you'll get to the point where they hear the noise of the fireworks going off and they start looking around for food, because they've then turned that around in their mind. They're making more positive associations. So rather than, scary noise, this is where I get scared, they'll hear the noise and go, ooh, where's my licky mat? Obviously, using a laptop or a device or a mobile phone, the sounds coming out of those devices aren't going to be exactly the same as recreating the real thing.
You get the real vibration with them big ones, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. Unless you've got a full Bose stereo speaker system set up.
Again, there's other kinds of speakers available.
I don't know any other brands. That's the only one I could think of. But it's the next best thing, and it's helping to desensitize your dog to those particular sounds. And as Nicky said earlier, it is a good idea to further keep your dog calm when the actual fireworks are going off outside. If you play those tracks loudly indoors as well, the sounds become blurred. So the dog's not quite sure if that noise is hearing those bangs and pops and whistles and whooshes, whether it's coming from that laptop or from outside. So it's not as scary for them. As I say, we're now at the end of November. It's worthwhile if you're going to...
At the time of recording.
At the time of recording.
Probably won't by the time we put it out there, but...
It's the end of November. So I would start this now. Do it as many times a day as you can to try and help your dog become calmer by the time the New Year fireworks start. Even if you do 10 minutes a day, see how far you get. Always end on a high. You don't want to be stopping a session with your dog's really anxious and nervous. When you get it to a spot where your dog's quite happy licking and you want to stop for the day, just stop on a good point. And do the training during daylight times and night times as well, because your dog is going to associate the noises of the fireworks with nighttime, because that's generally when they are going off. But if you do the training during the day and overnight time, that'll help too.
Well, I know Rosie was actually scared to go out to go toilets, wasn't she? After a couple of bad incidents, she was peeking around the furniture.
That was because we took her out at 11 o'clock at night when the fireworks should have finished.
Okay.
And she was mid-wee and someone set off this banger somewhere quite close to our garden, and it scared the crap out of her, and she jumped up and went to go running back indoors, which isn't great while she's recovering from spinal surgery. No. So that wasn't good for her. But then it scared her, and she was scared for a few days, not wanting to go outside. We had to calm her down with that.
Did you mention calming treats?
Yeah, the different calming treats. Yeah,
chamomile and all the rest.
Yeah, there's some good ones. There's, again, other stores available.
Stop doing adverts. If people want to pay us to do adverts, you can pay us. But yeah, you keep name dropping everything.
We're not sponsored.
No, we're not affiliated with anyone.
No, we're not. But the last lot of treats we had with chamomile and that in them, the calming treats, they were from Pets at Home. But other places are available as well. But they are, anything like that's quite good. You can get drops that go in the food. There's milk for dogs with chamomile and honey in it. I think it's called bedtime milk. There's one I got from B&M.
Oh, God's sake.
If any of these stores...
If anyone wants to tell us exactly how many brand names have been dropped during this... you can put it in the comments below.
Just in case if people in the UK want to find these items, that's where I've got them from, so they can find them. It's bedtime milk for dogs, and you can't really give regular milk to dogs because they are lactose intolerant. So the doggy milk is best because normally it's goat's milk, and that's easier to digest for dogs than
I think it's worth
milk.
also saying if you have trouble training your dog, it is worth getting a qualified trainer in.
Definitely, yes. I am a qualified trainer myself. I've been trained up and also on the Guild of Dog Trainers as a professional instructor, as positive reinforcement trainers. So we don't use any force-based training, anything like that. We do offer training as well. I'm going to shamelessly plug the business, which is Store
Why not?
Paws.
You've plugged every other business.
As a plug our own business, which is Store Paws Dog Training. The website is www.storepaws.co.uk, and click on the link to the training page. You can book online. We do virtual online training.
That's new, isn't it? That's something we're looking at doing, the virtual training.
Yeah, it's really
remote,
you can
remote
book in
training. Let's call it
remote virtual online training. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, we're using all the words for that one.
Yeah, and face-to-face training as well if you're in the area. We're in Stamford Le Hope in Essex. So that's the training segment, and each episode we'll try and cover something different. We want to try
and cover, keep it light-hearted, keep it fun, but we will talk about more spooky subjects, probably UFOs at some point. Although, I know I personally believe in UFOs. You're a bit anti-UFO. Oh well. But yeah, we will try and cover all of these things going forward. And then we'll have discussions afterwards. And as well with the various training things in the future, we'll go over different training methods and also subjects, and we will talk about our experiences with those things.
And if you want to give us any of your submissions, things that you want us to talk about, mention, we have an email address. You can send in any questions you might have, any ghost stories that you might have, any ghostly dog stories, any strange things that your dog might have done.
Equally, if you want to request a particular training subject to be covered or a particular ghost subject. Yeah,
we will get through them all. Any that you send through, we will talk about them in future episodes. But the email address for that is spirithounds@yahoo.com. So send through anything that you want to ask us, any submissions to there.
And I think just bear with us because we're kind of learning how to do the editing, the recording, and really kind of speaking into microphones for the first ever time, aren't we, really? So, bear with us. It will probably be a bit rough around the edges for a little bit, but hopefully be fun.
Yeah, so we're going to get this podcast out on the usual podcast platforms, Apple One, Spotify, and hopefully all the ones that we can find. And we'll upload it to the YouTube channel, which will be, the handle for that is @SpiritHounds on YouTube. So we'll get the video up on there. It won't be a video of us, but you'll be able to listen to it on there, and we'll try and add some video of things in there at certain points as well.
Pictures as well.
Yeah, we can add some pictures of certain things, maybe, because sometimes when we're trying to describe things through audio, it's not quite the same, especially when it comes to training techniques and things. We're just dealing with people face to face and showing things, so I tend to gesticulate and wave my arms around as if I'm describing something visually, and you can't see that. So
yeah, and equally it can be hard with the ghost stuff, can't it? Because I'm not sure how much stuff like photos and that would be copyrighted. So if someone took a picture and they're saying, "Oh, this is the ghost of so and so place," surely someone will have that copyrighted.
If you
might be hard
send any submissions to us and you have
if you're
anything,
happy to share it,
different. Make sure you put in there your name, where you're from, that you're happy for us to share these things. Otherwise, we'll keep it generic. We don't want to give people's details out, but we won't give your full name, obviously, just like your first name, where you're from, any other information you're happy with us to share. There will be a Facebook page as well. Yeah. Nicky's going to deal with that because I don't get on well with Facebook.
No.
So I tend to leave things like the Facebook pages to
Yeah.
Nicky to deal with.
And I will say as well, obviously due to the nature of some of the stuff we'll be talking about, listener discretion is kind of advisable, because obviously with ghosts and stuff, there's going to be stories of suicide, murder, things like that have led to these supposed hauntings. With the dogs, there might be some things that people find horrible to hear, be it medical or about neglect or anything like that. We may cover it, but we'll try and put a warning in the individual podcasts beforehand at the very beginning, just saying, be advised, this will cover the various topics, so that if you have young listeners, that you're aware of that. Equally, we might drop the occasional swear word. I think you've dropped one or two tonight already.
Yes, I did.
So
I'm sorry.
So, it might be, I don't know, do we bleep that out or do we keep that in?
I don't know. We'll see how we get on with the
You could
editing
bleep that
software.
out. And you could bleep all the company names out as well, and it'd just be bleep, 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 bleep.
There might be some content in there as well in between the bleeps.
People won't know if you're swearing or advertising. Yeah, so that's it. We'll try and cover some more stuff. We'll probably go into some more details about other things we've experienced, be it paranormal or dog related in the future. And yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you. We'll speak to you next time.
See you.